Okay, let's talk about a story you've probably never heard. It's about a brilliant German scientist named Dr. Johanna Budwig and a discovery that was supposedly so powerful it was deliberately buried. This is a wild story about science, big industry, and a potential breakthrough that just refused to go away. And this is where it gets really interesting. This brings us to the central question, the one that makes you go, how can a scientist who was reportedly nominated for a Nobel Prize not once but multiple times be almost completely unknown to most of us today? It's a puzzle, and according to our source, it hints at a much, much bigger story. Just let that sink in for a second. 6. We're talking 6 separate nominations. This wasn't some kind of fluke. It means her work was being taken seriously at the absolute highest levels of science. And yet, something always seemed to stop it from crossing that finish line. Our source argues that this fact alone should make us all sit up and ask, what was really going on here? So who was Dr. Budwig, really? Our source is super clear on this point. She was not some fringe figure or a self-taught healer working out of her basement. No. She was a deeply credentialed, official scientist working right at the heart of the German government. I mean, just look at these credentials, doctorates in physics, chemistry, and medicine. On top of that, she was a senior expert for the German government. We're not just talking about any scientist. She was one of the most highly qualified lipid biochemists in Europe at the time. She was, the real deal.
So what was this top-tier scientist working on? Well, her official government job was to investigate all these new processed fats that were becoming popular, things like margarine and other industrial oils, and figure out what they were actually doing to the human body.
And this quote right here, this is the turning point, because her research wasn't just some dry academic stuff. She found something that she believed was fundamentally damaging our health right down at the cellular level. And it didn't just worry her, it deeply alarmed her. So this alarming discovery pushed her to find an answer. She wanted to figure out a way to counteract the damage she was seeing. And her solution wasn't some complicated drug or a high-tech therapy. It was a simple, very specific combination of foods that she believed could restore our cellular energy. And there it is, almost shockingly simple, right? Organic flaxseed oil and organic low-fat cottage cheese. But, and this is the key, according to her theory, it wasn't about the individual ingredients. It was all about the unique chemical reaction between them that held the secret. Now, here's a cool little detail from the source. Dr. Budwig originally used a German dairy product called quark. You can see here, it's a bit different, smoother, higher in protein, and it made a perfect blend. But she found that good old low-fat cottage cheese, while not exactly the same, could still create that all-important chemical bond with the oil, so it still worked. So what's the magic going on here? Well, according to her work, when the proteins in the dairy, which are rich in sulfur, bind with the fats in the flax oil, which are rich in electrons, they create a whole new compound, lipoproteins. Her theory was that this new compound was like a supercharged fuel that the body could immediately use to fire up the mitochondria, the tiny little engines inside all of our cells. So basically, Budwig's whole idea boiled down to this. Many modern diseases are, at their core, a problem of energy. Our cells are literally running out of juice. They've lost their electrical charge. Her super simple approach was designed to do one thing: flip that switch back on and let the body's own healing systems get back to work. But you can probably guess what happened next. This is where the story takes a very sharp turn. An idea this simple, this accessible, well, it posed a direct threat. It put her on a collision course with some very powerful food and pharmaceutical industries, the very same industries that were heavily invested in the processed fats she was criticizing. So according to the source, as her work started getting attention, the pressure began to build. And the first big demand they made, she was told to remove any and all references to the word cancer from her research. And her response? It was clear. It was simple. She refused. She believed in her scientific data, she believed in what she was observing in her clinic, and she would not compromise on it. So the pressure escalated. Her ideas weren't just being called wrong anymore, now they were being labeled dangerous. And let's be honest, that's often the word people use when a new idea really starts to threaten an established system, right? And again, she just held her ground. She was a scientist through and through, and she was going to stand by her research, no matter how inconvenient it was for some very powerful people. The consequences for her refusal, according to our source, were severe. Instead of her work being openly debated and tested in the mainstream, it was just pushed to the side. She was basically shut out, her research dismissed without what she felt was a fair hearing. So, if she was so marginalized, you gotta wonder, why are we even talking about her today? If they tried to bury her work, why didn't it stay buried? Well, our source makes a really compelling argument. Maybe her work wasn't wrong. Maybe it was just decades ahead of its time. I mean, look at this. Decades ago, Budwig is focusing on things like mitochondria and cellular respiration. Now you fast forward to today, and what is all the cutting-edge science focused on? Mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress. It's like she was speaking the language of 21st century science, way back in the middle of the 20s. So why would an idea like this get buried? The source points to three simple but really powerful reasons. First, you can't patent it. Nobody owns cottage cheese and flaxseed oil. Second, because of that, you can't control it. And maybe the most important reason of all, it empowered patients, putting healing right back into their own hands. And this quote from the source it kind of hits the nail on the head. It suggests this whole thing was never just about the science. It was about control and about a system's reaction when people are genuinely empowered. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question to chew on. This whole story, as our source tells it, hinges on this idea that her discovery was pushed aside because it was simple, it was natural, and you couldn't make a huge profit from it. And that forces us to ask a really tough question. In the world we live in today, what happens when a potential path to healing can't be bottled up and sold?